Hello, bonjour, Annie, hola. My name is Garrett Ryan, and I am with Artist Relations here at Fringe North this season. I'm so happy to be back here once again on the Fringe North podcast. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of these before the festival begins on August 16th and goes till the 20th. Today, I am very grateful to be joined by Patricia Nakamoto and Adam Corrigan Hollowitz. Thank you so much for being on here today, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd love for uh, either of you or both of you to tell our audience a little bit about what you're bringing to French North this season.
So this season, we're bringing The Fig Tree, which is a play that talks about different cultures, Portuguese culture, a little bit of Brazilian since I am Brazilian. Um, my time here in Canada, what I've learned about the culture here, and really, I try to bring what I've been living here into this play in a funny way that I hope people really enjoy.
Amazing.
And I think the Fig Tree is this play that Patty uh, first first began in a playwright unit that I was facilitating during COVID called Cambion, which was a playwright unit where I was given this idea and we ran with it to because London, Ontario, where we live is and where we're based is known as the Forest City. We did a playwrights unit where each playwright picked a different tree in London, and they wrote a monodrama based on that tree. And the tree it could be an imagined piece, it could come from research, and Patty picked her fig tree, which was in her garage, wintering in her garage.
Yeah.
Um, and so a wonderful 8-minute monodrama came out of that, and then um it developed into the 30-minute incarnation that it's now living in. And then it's gonna be developed further. Patty's gonna write expanded into um a longer piece. I hesitate to always to say full length piece because it plays whatever length it needs to be. There's no such thing as a
Mm.
not full length play if it's complete. But it's going to continue to evolve, and that world's going to be explored further. And we describe it as a fable, a contemporary fable about what Canada's cultural mosaic can mean, what it could be, what its shortfalls are, and what that conversation looks like. And the conversation is two wonderful characters, a fig tree who Patty plays, who's come from Portugal,
Yeah.
and a spider who's been in this garage watching the Leafs lose or win.
Mostly lose.
Mostly lose. And this meeting. And I think the wonderful nature of this play is that it explores a lot of issues, but it is the characters drive it. And what I admired about Patty's writing process is that it was driven by the character. It wasn't we're going to take an issue and now hammer about with it. The issues come so organically and naturally, and I think that illuminates the questions in the play so much more effectively because it is great theater, great tension, great discovery, great journey first and foremost, and very funny in a way. We on paper it might look like it's a theater for young audiences piece, but
Mhm.
as soon as you start hearing what they're talking about, it certainly is not. um, it is ideas and questions that are universal to a much broader a broad range of ages.
Yeah, I think the idea of the play, it was really explore relationship, because when you immigrate to another country, what you really miss is relationship, is the feeling of um being in a family, have your circle of friends, and have really someone that understands you, that is there for you, that can really live with you and have fun moments or, arguments, just because we as human beings, we're always searching for relationship, to establish connections, to really try to understand others. What is your word, what is your background, what do you like, what you dislike, what's your culture, the way you think. And also we are looking for someone to, like, can you also try to understand my side, to see the things through my eyes, so I think the play, it's really explore that relationship between the fig tree and the spider, because the spider was born in Canada, and the fig tree, she's from Portugal. So both carries both have their own experience, their own story, their own traumas, and their way of seeing things and to face problems, or even things that they might find funny and others don't. So I think um, that's what really I was trying to make it clear in the play, that people really looking at the relationship that the fig tree develops with the spider, they see a deep relationship. They see, like, okay, this is not just superficial. They're getting into a place where they're getting to know each other, and they're really sharing um moments that it was able to happen because they are building connections. They want to actually get to know each other. So I think that's one of the 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 topic that I really wanted to explore in the play.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing all of that. That's amazing. I really love the idea that these things are coming organically from the characters. I think that is such a great way to approach it. I'm Patricia, did you say sorry, I got confused. Are you from Portugal or Brazil?
No, I'm from Brazil.
Okay, so
I'm
what
from
was the
Brazil, and I'm
decision?
also half Japanese.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
But no, I'm from Brazil, but I'm also half Japanese. But
Right.
when I was in the workshop that Adam organized, which was a playwright workshop,
Mhm.
and he brought up the idea to write a piece about trees, the first thought that came to my mind was to write about the fig tree, because that's one of my favorite things to eat, and that's my father-in-law favorite tree. So he loves gardening, and he constantly would talk and share stories about, the fig tree, that he brought the fig tree from Portugal. So he has, like, a different love towards the fig tree comparing to any other trees that he has in his garden, because he's like, oh, this is from Portugal, these figs are different. So listening to those stories every Sunday, when Adam brought the idea, I'm like, wow, I know a tree, but it's not the trees that we were trying to work at the workshop. But
Yeah.
I have a tree in my own backyard, and has a meaning for me, because my father-in-law, when he heard that I really like figs, he decided to give to me one of his fig trees, and he's like, make sure you take care of it,
Mhm.
don't let it die. So that's also why I decided to give to the victory a background, a Portuguese background, because it just makes sense, since the stories that I have in my mind is all came from him sharing his past, what
Yeah.
he lived in Portugal when he was there. So
I
Okay,
think that
amazing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Patty hints at this. One of the really interesting things I think about this play is that it's this kind of inadvertent autobiography Patty's written. I think even in that tradition of, Virginia Woolf writing the story about,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Browning with Flush, the biography told by a character in the shadows, a character who's not the one people are paying attention to. It's from the point of view of a fig tree and a spider, but also there are mentioned but not really seen characters, or maybe just their hands are seen, of Patty and your husband Paul and your your beautiful son Ashton. These
Yeah.
so there's also a story of the beginning of a family, but
Mm.
told from but seen from the point of view of a spider in a tree in the garage as this family begins, and which is it might not be apparent on the first viewing, but when you think about it for a minute, you go, oh, there's this other, kind of layer to it. And I think in a way you've written this kind of love, wonderful dedication to your family
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in this play, kind of weaved in very subtly in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
My sisters-in-laws, they said, well, they said to their father, you need to go and watch this play because it's basically a love letter that Patricia wrote to you because your whole story is there. So yes, I think that's
Amazing.
yeah, that's pretty much. I think when you what Adam brought is like when you writing a play, sometimes we are stuck like, oh, I cannot write anymore. What's going on? We're at inspiration. But when we start like just, okay, let's breathe, let's stop, and then you watch to your own life. You're like, wait, there's a lot here that I can share
Hmm.
in a different way that also will connect with people that are reading or watching the play because we all go through the same thing, but in a different perspective, right? So the fact that I chose the spiders because spider is one of the bugs that I pretty much hate and I'm very scared. So but it's always there in the garage, right?
Yeah.
That's my husband's garage. So what can you find in a caveman? Spiders and dust and all that. So all that was surrounded me was put into display. So yeah, I'm happy to share because
Yeah.
it's a point of view that I want people to like, celebrate with me too.
I'd love to contextualize a little bit and ask for you to tell us a little bit about your story, then, Patricia. Then, like, for people that don't know you and go into this, where I'd love to know about you as an artist, but then also just like as a person, like your story coming to Canada. It sounds like you have a lot uh, of personal background that's like bled into this piece. So I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was born in São Paulo, which is a very big city in Brazil. And in 2013, I decided to study English in Vancouver. And I saw as soon as I landed in Vancouver, I just fell in love. I'm like, this city is just amazing. Just, you know, you have Stanley Park there, and I was working in front of English Bay in an ice cream store. So like what else can you ask, right? And you're just there
Yeah.
as a student. Um, so then my time there was really amazing. It totally opened my eyes because that was basically my first trip outside Brazil that I stayed that long. I stayed for 10 months in Vancouver, and it was amazing to get to know the Canadian culture, but also any people that were there. So I have friends that they were from Japan. I have friends that were from Korea, China, so Mexico. So it was really nice to have this kind of like connections that, yes, I am from Brazil. Brazil is a mixed country. So if you ask to any Brazilians, like, what's your background? Probably they will say at least three. Oh, Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, because we are a mixed nations.
Yeah.
But we don't, because we're a mixed nation, we don't get to talk to people from other nations. It's funny, like, because
Mhm.
like you go to Brazil to visit, but you don't go to Brazil to learn Portuguese, right? But like everybody needs to learn English. So
Right.
that was so cool to actually get to know people from other countries. Um,
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, but you're also Portuguese, you're also Japanese. I'm like, yes, but it's just nice to actually talk to someone from Japan. So when I was there, it was super cool. And from there, I did a 2-month volunteer in South Africa, which was another. I'm very grateful for my time there, to get to connect with kids, from the poor community, and then with young adults that they were looking for, like learn like arts in general, theater. So it was very nice to spend my time there as a storyteller and also as a theater teacher, sharing just whatever I carry with me as an artist and share with others. And then I was back to Brazil, and I was like, I really want to go back to Canada.
Mhm.
So 2015, I moved to London, and I went to Fanshawe. So I went to study performing arts.
Cool.
I used to do theater in Brazil, but theater was, you know, oh, theater, what's your plan? Right? So
Mm.
my father, as a Japanese, he's like, okay, you can't just be an actress. So what else do you want to be? So I also have a background in, I'm a physical therapist, and I do have a master in business too. But my biggest love was always acting. So
Mm.
Canada was the place to fulfill that. Um, so since finishing Fanshawe, I connect with Adam, and Adam is amazing. AlvegoRoots has been doing a lot of plays, that connects with London, which I found amazing. Like, so he tells the stories that are here in London. So when he gave me the opportunity to, like, hey Patty, do you want to expand, the length of the play? I got really excited because as an artist, I had a lot of moments in Brazil that I had the chance to write a play, to direct a play. I didn't really get the chance here in Canada. So when he offered me the chance, I was very grateful because as someone that you immigrate, you don't have the perfect English. So like you don't have the perfect English. Are you really thinking about writing a play? So there's a lot involved. Um, but they helped me through the whole process. And there's Kidra too, that she's not here, but Kidra was the one correcting my grammars. But on the other hand, what I really loved about the opportunity that Adam and AlvegoRoot gave it to me was keep it the grammar errors that is there, because that's also part of who you are as an
Yeah.
artist. So that's the way that you write, that's the way that you express. So the fig tree has a different language because it's mostly how me as an artist and as a person, Patricia, that has Portuguese as mother language, speaks English.
Mhm.
So that's what I really like too, like to keep the essence. This is how I would speak. So they like, no, leave it there. We can understand why you're trying to, say and share in that scene. So it doesn't need to be the way that we would say, it can be that way too. So that's something different about the fig tree too, is the language. That is in English, but for sure people will listen and they'll say, okay, that's different, but I get it. So I think
Mhm.
that's a valid point.
And I think Patty was very adamant that the spider, who's a Canadian-born, hockey-loving spider in
Yeah.
the garage. At first, I was like, "Oh no, the syntax that he's speaking is so interesting." So Patty was very adamant. No, you have to um, support the getting him to sound really Canadian-born. He
Mhm.
has to sound in this. He has to get to that vernacular. But I think that in the play, there's this wonderful conversation in between language,
Mhm.
between how the different characters navigate the language. And one of the I think oftentimes a playwright maybe writing their first play or kind of starting to explore technique, it takes a while sometimes for characters to sound different. I
Yeah.
for sure in my first play all the characters sounded exactly like
Mhm.
me. um so, but the characters become so strong in this play because they do have these completely different ways they both navigate English.
Mhm.
I would say, uh, you know, neither way is a correct way, there isn't really a correct, but they have their own strategies, their own techniques to navigate language. And it's a very, some playwrights really mind it becomes where language fails. I mean, all language fails. That's why we speak again. If we were able to communicate perfectly the first time, we'd never speak again. We get our point across to be just silence.
Yeah.
And character playwrights like, as far back as Harold Pinter or Carol Churchill have explored where language breaks down, the limits of language, and how language is one more object in the geography of a play, which can be pushed against, pushed with, played with, manipulated with. So it again, it's the reason this piece works and why, from the moment, from the first draft on, why it excited us is because there's all these planes for the actor to play with that make for really interesting stuff. And we are, just by our nature, maybe just by our proclivities, we are a fairly language heavy theater. But one of my teachers in theater school, Alice McMacken, had a thing which is, actors are told to get out of their head all the time, which is the wrong way of thinking. I got hung up on that for years if I was acting. And then Allison was the first person to say, no, connect your head. Our head's a tool. Our head's part of our body. We can't get out of our head. So we are a very language-based theater, but using language in interesting ways, and and seeing how language can inform physical vocabulary too in the play. It's just one more object in that plane of theater.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I imagine the experience reading the script is very unique. I know sometimes there are plays where it's really on the actors to differentiate the characters. And you're right, that's a common pitfall of early career playwrights. So it's very interesting the way that you're able to use that grammar. It's like from the script level, it's the actors have a much easier job to know how to inhabit the voices of the characters to make them distinct. And that's very interesting. So for you, Adam, then I'd love to get some context a little bit about your background and coming into this, and as this play is really like a melding of cultures and practices and all of these amazing things. What do you see as your sort of contribution, I guess, culturally, artistically into this work? I know your work as a dramaturg. Were you considered the dramaturg of this piece, or
in this piece, Keitra Ryan was the dramaturg, and I was the director. But I think there was a fairly collaborative dramaturgy between us.
Right,
for
and
sure.
the dramaturg often has sort of this like necessarily invisible contribution, but I feel as though there was some interesting collaborations going on, especially trying to support the language aspect with the spider. So I'd love to hear about how you and Keitra both managed that.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I've had the experience, but I've sat in the room as a production dramaturg on a new plays where I'm not the director, and I've also been the director with a dramaturg in the room. So I think it's a great asset to have had both experiences, and that's maybe somewhat rare. I think there's, I wouldn't say completely rare, but I think it certainly makes I think if you're a director who's dramaturged a production before, you're going to have a much better understanding of what it feels like to be the dramaturg in the room, and to make sure the dramaturg is heard. Lots of conversation, and it became, me and Keitra have a very unique working relationship. We just finished a piece where we co-wrote the play, co-directed the play, and performed in the play with other actors, which was an experiment, a risky experiment at that, and it worked out. But I think we have I think because we work together so much, we are able to be very frank with each other, in a way that you couldn't be maybe with someone who's you have less familiarity with. Well, keeping things safe and respectful at all times, but we can be quite direct with each other and know that we're not um we're not hurting feelings. Something that I wouldn't do with other artists, because we do write. I think once you co-write together, you're able to be
Yeah.
much more there's an artistic intimacy that comes that you're allowed to, you feel you can, yeah, how that communication becomes so great. Kedra was really important. I think there came a point in the rehearsal process too where Kedra was away for a week and came back, and I'd been watching the play a lot, and I was starting to, in a way, just I couldn't see it anymore. Like I kept seeing it because I was seeing it so much.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the great things that dramaturg can do, especially in that production space, is ask a question or something, just give a little prod, and then oh, I see it again, what needs to happen. And then the play comes alive. So I think one of the great things is, yeah, a dramaturg can give air to, oxygen to the brain. I think it's really important when I'm dramaturging a play too. I always, with the questions I ask, I uh, I so encourage the playwright not to feel the need to answer that question right away.
Yeah.
The question's not there. I can say, how long do you think these people have known each other? And they might say 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't affect the play at all. Nothing's changed. But they've given me an answer. They've picked an arbitrary amount of time, and we're good. Whereas a question like that is really an invitation to walk around, think about it, digest that for a while, however long it takes, and go, oh, the way they're talking to each other in this part feels like they're they really are intimate with each other, but here they feel very very estranged from each other. It's and then it's meant, and then it gets more. I might never, the answer, the amount of time is arbitrary. I may never get told that answer. I don't need to know that answer. I don't even really care about that answer. I care about suddenly the thrill when you're dramaturging a new play is that you ask that question. You don't give the answer, but you see the answer in the text, in just how things adjust itself and how things develop. You go, oh, that's a thrill. That's a thrill. It's, my heart sinks when a playwright answers me right away with a question.
But I think Alan and Kira, they were very respectful about my vision of the play. But the play is so much better because Adam and Kidra, they brought different colors and they brought variation. Because sometimes when you're the one who write the play, you have already in your mind how you want the actors to say the line, especially if you're an actor. So when you are an actor and you also like write the play, I had all in my mind, oh, this is how I want the spider to speak, to the point that I even choose who I wanted the spider to be, which is my friend that went with me to college. And the play, while you watch the play, it's literally how was my interaction with him during college. So I'm like, I know who's gonna play this spider. Right. I wrote the spider thinking about who am I gonna act with. So when we first run the play, Adam and Kidra, they're like, this is okay, this is cool, but, and then the questions started being asked in a way that I never thought. So it was so important that they brought different point of views to kind of like not change the way that I was writing the play, because when we were rehearsing, the play was still in process, because the play was 8 minutes monodrama, like Adam said. Then we needed to do something that was 30 minutes. So I wrote a big play more than 30 minutes, and then we have to cut down to 30 minutes because of one of the events that we did for the Heritage Council. So to cut the play was really hard. And that's when Adam and Kidra, they were super, super like respectful and helpful, saying, listen, this is your play, but it's not that one part is more important than the other, but what makes sense to make this play this length, and what really has to be there. You cannot take it to make people understand what you're trying to show through the play. So I think that was very important, the brain variation, and make me think what parts of the play I cannot take it out, like no matter. it has to be there. So that was very important to me. Okay, this is important, this is priority, this not so much. It would be cool if it wasn't a play, but because of the time, this needs to go, and that has to stay. Like, it's a must. So that was very important for that.
It was a very unique, and it was an interesting exercise because this play was shared in a event with scheduled things on either side of it. My usual instinct would be let the play be as long as it could be. Let it be 45 minutes. That's what the first acts become. And I was a bit, it made me a bit sad that we were so owned by the clock for that first sharing of the piece, but it was the realities. But it was very interesting because the stuff that was cut might come back when that piece becomes larger again. But also it was really interesting. I think every piece that was removed, I think there was a few moments where it's going to be very clear to look at those pieces that were removed and see what part of those were vital organs and what part were kind of tonsils that can come and go, that we can live without. And I think before we insert them all back in, I think each one's going to be really looked at. And so it's a cool exercise to take apart a play and see, not that the things that aren't essential aren't important to keep in a play, but to see what is the bare essence of the play, strip it down, and then put those things back, because we go to theater not just for the essentials. We go to theater for the, if some of our favorite parts of theater are things that are not actually essential to the story sometimes. And I think to circle back a little bit, I think dramaturgy, I really believe strongly that if you're in the position to be supporting new plays and to be reading new plays, you have to have the guts to believe in a work and to see, and to believe in an artist. Maybe the artist doesn't have tons of hours working on their craft, but you have to believe you have to believe in them to be able to provide them those resources to develop either the work or develop their own technique or both. And that's really important. And there's certainly some people who I feel strongly who have positions of power in the theater, who wait for someone to win a big award, and then they start supporting them. They wait for someone else to make the judgment whether this person's worth believing in. So it's important just to believe. Of course, there's a bias there. There's an inherent bias of who do you believe in? Do you see that potential? And I think dramaturging a play where the culture that's explored is not the culture that's mine. There's some very obvious pitfalls where you could end up manipulating the play. And I think being conscious of that's important, but also being able to be versed in as much different forms of theater as possible is really, and to be continually expanding that and expanding your reference point for forms and modes of performance in theater gives you, I think, the tools to then suddenly go, that's a form of theater I'm not familiar with. That's not cultural references that are my own, but I recognize that from a academic, from a kind of an objective, on an abstract level, I can recognize that and go, yes, that's important. That's something that there's something exciting there. And I think, it's not a perfect system, but it's certainly a way to be able to check your biases. It is to just keep reading, keep experiencing as much different forms as possible. It's at least a way to keep those biases in check, at bay. And the thrill of that is that then you get to commission work that's not the work that maybe speaks to you. There's this idea about theater having to be connected. I have to relate to theater. I think that's such a dangerous idea, that theater has to be relatable. The theater is an opportunity for us to cross a bridge, to break apart our ideas and engage with things that are not things we know. If we stuck with theater that was relatable to us, that means we would never cross that bridge. We never make that journey to get to not necessarily know what someone else is experiencing, but at least understand or recognize that there is an experience that is not like ours. And that's what theater can do. So I love going to theater I can't relate to, because that's what makes you a better person, I think. you got to go to stuff you can't relate to, because by the end you might see a glimmer of understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go to theater if you like to read as much theater as possible. I but my I think it was Playwrights Canada Press, or one of the publishers in Toronto closed down during the pandemic, and they were giving away a ton of free plays, and I went and got like two boxes of like 200 plays, and just through the pandemic worked through them, and there was so many different ones, and I a lot that I just did not comprehend on my first or second or third readings, but going back, eventually, yeah, you find little glimmers of things, and then now I'll read a similar work, and you can kind of make those connections, and you're right, it really opens up your mind, and it's yeah, if you're going in expecting something to immediately speak to you, then you're absolutely missing out on like what theater can offer. So I think that's really important. I'm glad you shared that.
It comes down even to experiencing theater in accents that are not your own. I can think of a few examples, like the Stratford did Willie Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman last year, and they did them in fantastic accent work, very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it twice. First time took me about 10 minutes to pick it up,
Yeah.
and then you hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And on another scale, I saw the Abbey Theatre came to Toronto with The Plough and the Stars. I'm of Irish heritage, and it took me about 15 minutes before I could get those very strong Dublin accents in my head.
Yeah.
And then you see the play, and then it's great. And I think sometimes there's a question where people, if they can't hear or are having trouble articulating the words, which legitimately happens, we can make a choice in that moment. We can either just shut down, or
Mm-hmm.
we can make that choice that we're going to just work. And if you give with pretty much any accent in the world that's not the one that's yours, you give it about 10 minutes and you can hear it. And I think it comes down to neurology. After 10 minutes, we can pretty much understand anyone.
Yeah. I've seen as well plays in languages that I don't speak or don't speak well. And of course, they're not going to connect with me in the way that it's going to connect to someone who speaks the language. But I find I've had very profound and different experiences watching plays that like don't linguistically speak to me, but like I can start connecting with other things that I might not if I understand the words as much. So it's very interesting experiences that I think theater specifically can provide for us that I don't necessarily find in other mediums. Like I think like being there, connecting with the people you see on stage is very interesting. Which actually kind of I'd like to bridge that into your approach of doing this digitally, because you kind of have that mix of both worlds. Like it's I want to I people have been approaching digital theater throughout the pandemic very differently. Some have been just basically taking it and making it into a film, and some have been trying to do something completely unique. So I'd love to hear where your approach was on that.
We've tried a few different things. We've tried a single camera early in the pandemic. The first projects we did, we filmed multiple takes like a movie, and it was from a lot of encouragement. People were saying, "Oh, watching a play just filmed, it's not the same. You should make it like in a film. You should really be creative."
Mm-hmm.
But a play that's kind of broken down into shots is always going to still feel like a play. It's going to feel like a very, very low budget movie.
Right.
I think. Yeah, it's just, and this, people listening might disagree, and they're very welcome to. This has been my experiences of trials and errors, and those pieces turned out all right. But a play is designed, a scene, the beats of a play are meant to live. And I love Philip Aiken, the great Canadian director, had a thing where he said that I was in an interview I heard, he said he likes to think of the beats now as moves instead of beats, that the move, it's always moving towards the next one. It's not boom, 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 broken up, but it's
Right.
always organically building until it's so unrecognizable. Now you're into the next move. I love that idea. So in a play, plays work that way. Screenplays are written with cuts in mind. Plays are not. So sometimes the technical cuts of filming a play like a movie, those cuts happen not where the move happens, not where the beat naturally is. And so you lose something. The actors are stopping and starting. It becomes a very tiring process, because you're not working with a screenplay, you're working with a play. And I think the result can be a little bit diminished. What we do a Fig Tree, Greg D'Souza filmed. It was very flyby. Seat of the moment in late 2021, we were going to do a solo show for the James Rainey solo piece, two solo pieces. I was going to perform one, Keeter was going to perform the other. And we were going to do it live for the James Rainey lecture, encore performance of a piece we'd done earlier that year. And then COVID got worse, and they said, "Oh, you can live stream it now." Now the Rainey lecture gets watched by people around the world, and I was very clear, I was not going to perform a solo show live streamed. That was way too much pressure. So it got filmed in advance, and that's when we got to use 3 multi-cameras filming the play in one go. Fig Tree, we've done a few cuts where it was very, which people will see, very kind of choice moments. 3 cuts. One takes 20 minutes, the other takes about 1 minute, the next one's about 5 minutes. I think the results are much better to be able to have those cameras capture multiple angles. You can create a dynamic flow. And Greg D'Souza's editing is really great. One thing, Greg's a performer, a musician. He understands live performance. And what I love most about his edits is that he also captures the flow of the blocking. His when he decides to move to a different angle is very much in sync, in tune, in harmony with where a person is moving. So you've really your eye flows very easily. It's really wonderful, and it's technique for Greg, but it's also just I think there's also a great instinct there. So that's how I, going forward, when we get to do a film, that's how I want to do it. Filming is expensive too.
Yeah.
People, and I noticed right kind of about the late summer of 2021, the interest in virtual offerings did dip a lot. So it navigates. So I think they now are a special again. But people, once live theater was opening and people were just eager to get back out.
Oh yeah.
And now I think we'll see the value of both. The value is that you get to experience performance from around the world. You get to experience stuff without travel. Those are I think the lasting impacts. But once people had the choice between watching something we filmed or they could watch us literally 5 blocks away live, they were back in person.
Yeah.
Oh, we live far.
Yeah. I mean, it's something. Oh, go ahead.
No, it was just a great opportunity for us that we could film the play.
Yeah.
Filming after COVID, we know that it was, even for auditions, we know how easy it is now. You don't have to go there. So that's something that I see this as, something positive. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's for us, especially, I was going to say, for our festival in Sault Ste. Marie, we're so, out of the way that we'd love for people to eventually start making the trek up, but it's really good to have these digital offerings because we have all these amazing artists that are either in Sault Ste. Marie and want to get their work outside, or we want to work with artists like yourselves who are not there and can be a part of the festival without having to drive 12 hours up to where we are. So it's been great for us for accessibility reasons, for kind of opening up our horizons and things like that. We're holding on to it for sure. We're not eager to get rid of it once we opened back up in person. We really wanted to keep that hybrid approach.
And I love the energy of this festival. Getting to experience it for the first time. So after the last call me and Keeter got, I said I want to get up there next year because I love
Please
this.
do.
The energy, the way you, I can't quite think of another Fringe quite like what you're doing. The amount of work and care that you're taking to it is quite beautiful and remarkable. So I'm really moved by
really appreciate
by
that.
the dedication and making something really wonderful happen.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That's very, we're in a region that is starved of professional arts training, or really any kind of arts training. So when we kickstarted the festival, it was really with the aim of reaching out to that local community who has stories to tell but has no outlet, and we really wanted to kind of take them by the hand and show them what it means to make art and really be human centric, and then that's kind of extended into our general philosophy. And for me as someone who wasn't there from the beginning and came on as a worker later, like I feel that as an employee, I feel that as I've been an artist in the festival as well. And yeah, it's a really special and unique experience. I would love to have both of you up at some point next year. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. The work is so interesting and so exciting, and it reflects the Sioux in such an interesting way. All these hearing about the other projects, it's really really great, and it's what we do at AlvegoRoot is regionalism and telling those stories. And it was so exciting to see those stories getting facilitated so well.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I will pass that on to the other amazing people who work to make this festival happen. I'm sure they'll appreciate hearing that as well.
Please do, yeah.
I'm noticing the time. We should probably wrap it up. I could definitely keep talking. We'll have to do something else at some point and get into all sorts of other things. But for now, thank you both so much for joining us. Where can we see you on social media? Anything like that? Do you have anything coming up you want to plug outside of the festival?
Outside of the festival, and AlvegoRootTheatre.com is where you can find it. We have programming year round in South London. We are going to be announcing our 2024 season pretty soon. Facebook, AlvegoRoot Theatre .com or AlvegoRoot Theatre on Facebook. And what is our Instagram? Instagram is AlvegoRoot Theatre. There we are. This is where you have to edit, right? To put it
the same way. I never remember my Instagram handle.
It's AlvegoRoot TC at AlvegoRoot TC is the Instagram handle.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but yeah, we have lots of programming. We're building a venue in the Manor Park Memorial Hall. We're getting theater infrastructure as an accessible space for London artists and for the community to use. It's a really cool room that it's a community hall. It has been around for 100 years, and now it has a lot of arts. But also, we on last municipal election, we struck the whole set on a Sunday night because the polling station was in there for the neighborhood, and then the set was put back up at midnight that night after the election completed. So it's a building of really civic importance, important for the community.
Yeah.
Political meetings happen there, all sorts of things, town halls, and also theater and art. So it's kind of and there's a food bank in the building as well. So everything happens in that building.
That's cool. I like that. I like the very multi-purpose. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, people can go find out some more information about all that stuff at your social media and your website. That's great. Yes, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this podcast. Merci, miguet, gracias. Obrigada. That's Portuguese, right?
Obrigada. Yes, you say obrigada.
There you go.
Yeah.
Obrigada. And just a reminder that Fringe North 2023 will be from August 16th to the 20th. And tickets are on sale now. I can confidently say that. At the time of recording this, we are a day away from ticket launch, so I can confidently say that tickets are on sale now, and you can find out some more information about tickets and anything else on our social media channels and our website, which is all in the description below. And if you want to support the work that our team is doing here, you can consider tipping the Fringe, and you can find that link below as well. We will be back with some more podcasts before the festival, and we can't wait to see you then. Thank you both so much again for coming on.
Thanks so much. Bye.